and you go out there and you put on a dominant performance.
Yeah.
50,
well,
and then also too.
Was it a dominant performance?
I was just about to say, Chris Lee, I think was the judge's name.
Yeah.
What was he smoking? I mean, 48, 47 Felder.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to sit him down and be like, explain this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 32 of Big Game Talk. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, a little bit of changing around. You kind of caught us in the middle of a move on both ends. So we're a little bit flustered to say the least, but we're still here with your weekly episode. A little bit late too this week, but we're still here. So right away, UFC Fight Night, Felder versus Dos Anjos. What are your thoughts?
So it was nice seeing Felder. I think anytime we see Felder now, I don't think he's completely done, but anytime you see Felder in the octagon, it's a special treat because, he's nearing the end of his career and his attention is towards the broadcast. I love seeing him on the broadcast. So, but it's as I said, special treat to see him in the octagon, because you don't know when is it going to be his last. He's talked about kind of starting to move away from fighting and move into broadcasting, which you can't blame him. Like it's
but honestly, it almost looked like this fight turned that a little bit because he was kind of at the end of it. He's like, I'm not going away anytime soon. Which after the fight against Hooker, he was talking about retiring. So it was almost like even though he lost, it kind of rejuvenated and found his love for it again.
Yeah, he's definitely like at the end of that fight, we saw a very hungry Felder. You love the spotlight, and the call out at the end when he was calling out people that missed weight. Like the amount of trouble that this card went through. One of the people that no blame would be put on Felder if he didn't hit weight. Concerning, he figured out he was going to fight on last Sunday. So
he took it on, I think, 5 days notice.
Yeah, 5 days notice. So less than that. Like Monday, he starts his cut. This guy's expected to be on the mic for this card up until last week, and then he goes out and fights. He said, you really felt it when he said Thursday was one of the darkest days of my life. Or I don't know. That's what he said, right?
And before we get any further in this episode, I gotta say, if you were listening on the podcast and not on the visual, you're gonna hear a little bit of rattling because I've already heard it about 3 times. Chris's mic broke, so he's holding it doesn't look anything like a mic to me. Show it to the camera whatever the hell that is. That's what he's using as a mic. So it's gonna rattle a little bit because he's just far enough away from his desk that he can hold on to it too. Still,
yes. So. I'm holding it like this now. I'm holding it like this, so there's not gonna be. This is like a baby rattler right here. I'm using. and we've had so much technology problems. And I know, Brad. He keeps getting shocked by his headphones. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Anybody that knows anything about electricity or science and stuff like that needs to explain to us how you can get shocked by your headphones. And it's not a sound thing. It's an electricity going through. I thought this guy. I thought he got shot by a taser when we were setting up. How he was So.
We're having a tough time.
Yeah.
We're about, what time is it here? We're recording. It's about 7:00. We've been trying to get set up for a little while now. We're kind of both in the middle of moves, so it's tough times here.
Yeah. So.
But Felder versus RDA. All props to RDA too. He really showed up. This was his first fight back at lightweight in a couple of years too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to see too a lightweight division now that if Khabib doesn't retire, it is going to be top heavy again. But RDA, Felder, even with the loss, has earned a top flight opponent next for what he did for the UFC, saving this card. Because aside from the main event, it was a terrible card.
Mm-hmm.
RDA coming in, beating the number 7 guy, 4 days notice, essentially. He deserves a top flight opponent. You got all the guys at the top that demand the top opponents too. So you got a lot of people deserving a lot of things, and they're not all going to get it.
Yeah.
So it's going to come down to a lot of times is who's just willing to step up and help out the UFC. And RDA and Felder here really did that. So if you're looking at somebody like a Tony or Tony Ferguson, who's maybe not taking some fights, mind you, he took the Gaethje one too, so that's still in the UFC's back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really the embarrassment of riches that is the lightweight division. And I mean, Khabib, and we spoke about this on Saturday night while we were watching the fights, and I said, Khabib, as much as I love watching Khabib fight, unless it's a GSP fight, which is highly unlikely, Khabib, I think I'm happiest if Khabib is just out of the sport now. Just because, like, for a few reasons, like one or maybe two, maybe three. I'm gonna come up with the reasons as I go. But anyways, the first reason is just the last fight against Gaethje. First of all, that's an opponent that respects Khabib and Khabib respects him. So that's what Khabib, like, that's a nice end for Khabib's career because Khabib is a respect based guy. If it's a Conor, fight for Khabib's last, there's just going to be so much beef leaving the fight that
Yeah.
it's just the story's going to be Conor and Khabib, not Khabib when he retires, right? And that's just not. That's not what you want for Khabib for the end. I know the drama is great, like all that stuff from the Conor fight, lots of content, really awesome, but it's not a final fight kind of
No.
ending that you want. The ending you want is Khabib saying, "I'm done. This is it. I wanted to do this while my father was around. Now my father's not around, and my mother doesn't want me to fight, so I'm not going to fight." Like that was the ending. That was the storybook ending to me. And for Khabib being a guy like any other fighter would be, there would be an asterisk around. You didn't get to 30-0. That was the goal. But Khabib lives by his own rules. Like Khabib is in my mind, Khabib is at 30-0 essentially. Because what are they going to give him? They're going to give him Ferguson. They're going to give him Conor. They're going to give him Poirier. And all these guys Khabib can beat easily. So it's in my mind,
Yeah.
he's 30-0. And
Like I was saying to you, I think the only thing that makes sense for Khabib, I was telling you this Saturday night, I think Khabib drops the lightweight belt, he moves up to 60 or 65, and he fights GSP at that weight, and they make a new belt for it and call it the legacy belt. They're already established that you can make new belts with the BMF belt. Make one, call it the legacy belt, put it on as a big spectacle. This is both these guys' last fights. Put it on a show. You got the lightweight division, which is your marquee division, keeps on moving, and you keep getting the big fights for that. But then you get this big fight as well, but there's no belt that's going to be left behind because everybody knows what the outcome of this fight means.
Yeah. And I mean, if Diaz and Masvidal get a belt, Khabib and GSP get a belt,
Yeah.
made for them. So that's a no-brainer, I think. Now the challenge is getting GSP and Khabib back in the octagon together and getting GSP.
Well, I think
down
the thing is, Khabib, the only thing, I think Khabib wants GSP. If you offer him GSP, I think he comes back. I think the only issue really with GSP would be like he wants Khabib, but it might be 55 pounds. GSP is not getting any younger. And he's never fought there before. So cutting weight as you get older becomes harder, and especially to a weight class that you've never made before. Now he's talked that he's made the test weight cuts. Did he actually get to 55 on the scale, or did he get within range? Did he get to 160 and say, I can sweat the rest of it? I can get there. If you make it to a 60 or even a 65, Khabib is not going to be small for it.
Yeah.
Khabib's a huge lightweight, and GSP can probably make that. I would say no problem. Yeah. Like you look at the thoughts when he moved up to middleweight, you can argue, the last fight was at middleweight. He had to do lengths to get to that weight. He was too small for middleweight.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to say too that he went up to fight Bisping because Bisping was on his way down. He knew he could beat him, which GSP is my favorite fighter. That's a tough one to argue that he kind of handpicked Bisping and at that time skipped over Woodley, who was the welterweight champ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would love to see it. I think I'd love to see that. But the thing is, like, to go back to the Felder and dos Anjos, that would open up lightweight so much.
Yeah.
Because then you can start making you start throwing all these top flight fights out there. It'd be unreal because you got McGregor Poirier hopefully coming up. Poirier signed the contract. McGregor, who knows? Apparently he hasn't signed it yet. I don't know why. Like, hopefully he signs it. Then it looks like Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's a great fight. Who else you got? Then you really start going down to Felder and RDA, like RDA and Hooker. Yeah, that's a good fight.
That is a good fight, and I really love Dan Hooker. Like I think he needs a little bit more before he starts really working his way up. And I think that's a great chance to prove himself. I mean, RDA, like, I mean, credit to him too. How many fighters end up going back down as like at that stage in the career? You know, that's
Not very
that's
many.
pretty. I mean, that's pretty notable. And then
And he looked good at it too.
and he looked good
Especially
at it.
too. Don't forget, because he was supposed to fight Makhachev, who supposedly is a stud. If you listen to Daniel Cormier and Khabib, who are teammates with him, but this fight was supposed to happen a month ago on the pay-per-view, but it got canceled because RDA had COVID. So imagine dropping to a weight class you haven't fought at in years. You get COVID, you take the fight a month later, so you're barely any recovery time from COVID. Makhachev, a wrestler, drops out. You take Felder, a striker, on 4 days' notice, and you go out there and you put on a dominant performance.
Yeah.
50,
Oh,
and then also too.
Was it a dominant performance?
I was just about to say, Chris Lee, I think was the judge's name.
Yeah.
What was he smoking? I mean, 48, 47 Felder.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to sit him down and it be like, explain this.
Yeah. What's this guy's name again?
I think Chris Lee, something like
Chris-
that. And then, did you see this stat that I sent you after the fight?
Anyway, but first of all, like this guy, I used to be the mayor of Crazy Town. Brad can verify. I lost my re-election campaign to this judge.
Yeah, it like absolutely ridiculous. Like, did you see the stat I sent you after the fight?
Yeah. Where seven times or whatever, 10 times.
He's been a part of 10 split decisions this year. 7 times he was the one judge, like the deferring judge on the other side.
Yeah, that is gnarly. That is just that's a crazy stat. How? See, I've seen robberies of judging before, but this one, I mean, this is not a full robbery because it's still, I mean, Felder lost, but I've seen robberies where like that are not as drastic as this one judge's decision. I think
it
this
just didn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Did you see the rounds that he gave him? He gave him 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
That's like
this guy is the ultimate like takedowns don't do anything for me. Like how some judges they're all for the takedowns. This guy is just like don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah, you know, they probably like had you could get a bunch of scientists to put a zebra in a lab and then get them to watch the fight and then have like 2 sides and have 2 things of food and the zebra picks which one and it would come up with a better scorecard than that.
Yeah, it was just it goes back to it's embarrassing, I think, for the sport when there's stuff like that happening.
Yeah.
Like the Saturday night was an embarrassment. Like, did you see this is I don't even know if I should bring this up because this is headline grabbing, but there was a big boxing card. The co-main event, there was a headbutt or something, and they went to the replay for it. 26-minute replay. The fight lasted for 26 minutes of replay. Actually, 6 minutes, sorry, but 26 minutes of replay.
Like, so a replay review that took 26 minutes.
In the middle of a fight.
To determine if somebody headbutted another person.
I think it was something in boxing, how they care about like how you get cut or something like that. But I was just going, that happened the same night. So if you're combat sports, you're going, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, it's 2020. Let's figure this stuff out.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, a replay review in another sport takes 4 minutes. That's too long. You know, that's embarrassing. That's not even worth it at that point.
But if you're looking at between the judging, like just figure it out. You can't even blame the Felder judge, like him scoring for Felder, like the crowd swang me. There was no crowd.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Yeah.
Because I mean, a Felder crowd, you know, that definitely helps. I think a crowd in attendance helps Felder for sure.
For sure.
And yeah, it's how you can come up with that decision is just insane. And it's in a sport that's so, because I mean, it's so like built for gambling, and there's so many people with like money on the line watching the fight. You can't have judging like that because then people think like, what is this? Are these judges putting bets down? You know, like
Well, that's the thing,
there's
because
a whole
somebody
world of sketch.
I saw it on Twitter. Somebody said that there's certain bets that you can take, and I don't, not on the book that I use, but on some books you could be like the main event, like whether it's gonna, if it goes to decision, whether it's split or unanimous.
Yeah.
So like if you put big money on split decision, and then like so obvious the other two are going one way.
Yeah. That's spooky. That's spooky. I almost feel like we're gonna get whacked for talking about this.
But do you think, like, for officials like this, like I mean, it's very opinion based,
Yeah.
but like this was simply just wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think there should be almost like a punishment?
I think,
Wait, like that's tough to be like, your opinion's so wrong, you're gonna be punished.
If you're the dissenting judge 7 out of 10 times in split decisions in a year, you should be fired.
Yeah, I like there has to be something where you can hold these people accountable.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's your job and you suck at it.
Yeah. Do these people have like tenure or something?
But like honestly, like what do you think should happen other than like, because like in a perfect world you just go Chris Lee or whatever your name is, you're gone. Like you're just you can't be doing this anymore. With the UFC can't even do this because it's the commission. So it'd be, where they Vegas, so it'd be the Nevada State Commission.
Yeah, that sounds like a crowd of upstanding individuals.
Like, yeah, they're probably they're the ones with the big bets on a split decision, being like, yeah, Chris, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Man, this stuff, like you peek, you go peek behind this curtain and it's just spooky town.
Yeah. So like nothing's gonna happen. Like at some point you should punish them. Like maybe just, what training do these people have before they're judges too?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who do you find? I mean, there's got to be at least an eye test, you know?
Yeah. Like here, watch this fight. What's your score? Like somebody watch that fight, and if they give one round to Felder, just be like, sorry, guy, you don't cut it.
Yeah. Now this is every time any fight commission is hiring somebody, this is the fight they go back to. And the only way you pass the test is if you don't give Felder a round. And that's the bar. It's a low bar. It's a very low bar, but it's better than the bar we have right now.
Like if this guy was in an optometrist's office and that was the test, watch this fight, and he gave 48-47 Felder, the optometrist would start rubbing his hands being like, I'm going to get 3 vacations out of you. Like there's something wrong with your eyes.
He would have a telescope strapped to his face.
Like just ridiculous,
man. Like you know, I don't feel safe driving if there's people like this out on the road.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You know?
Ridiculous.
Like, man,
but no controversy in the co-main event though.
Yeah, I mean, Khaos didn't allow for that. I mean,
brutal. That was I'm not gonna say one of the best because recency bias is gonna really play in there, but that was like, I mean, that's up there in knockouts I've seen.
That's the Gone knockout. Remember that?
And yeah, that's a throwback. That was pre-COVID. You brought that up.
Yeah, Gone, greatest of all now.
Yeah, we haven't brought that up since COVID started because nothing's been great since COVID started.
Yeah.
But that was vicious. And it was a straight right too. Like Khaos has got power because it was a lot. The knockout before this was under 30 seconds too, right?
Yeah, what was the time on this one?
Under 20 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
Here, I got my tablet here with it.
Yeah, man. Because like that one, you could be watching that fight, watching UFC for the first time. Don't know who any of these people are. You watch that and you look at the guy and you say, yeah, that's a dude named Khaos.
Yeah. Right there. 31 seconds.
31 seconds. So
just and Khaos came into this as the underdog too. I found that kind of, I mean, that Abdul Rzak Alhassan, I mean, he had a little bit of hype around him, but I mean, Khaos shut that down real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, too, if you're Khaos, do you give him a big step up now in competition?
I think I think for a couple, I think you do for a couple factors. One, just the visual of that knockout, 31 seconds. I mean, the fans love it. I mean, I'm gonna give you three actually. So that's one. Two, I mean, like his branding is already fantastic. This just helps his branding. He looks great on a poster. His name looks great on a poster. I think you start working him his way up. And then three, I mean, this was not a great card. And the co-main and the main event really bailed the UFC out tonight or on Saturday night.
Especially too when the first thing too when Makhachev story dropped out, there was a big panic because you can't elevate, like people were like co-main event, you can't elevate that to the main event. And I mean, name value would have been not good if they were in the main event, but that was a main event knockout.
Yeah. So big statement from Khaos, and I think you're gonna see him really climb up as a result of this fight. So
I'd like to see him on the opener of a pay-per-view. I think that's a perfect spot for him because like in the promo package as the pay-per-view starts, those knockouts, perfect.
Yeah, really well. And especially as you're rolling out of the prelims, the people that are kind of on the fence about paying, you know, that, I mean, you run, say this fight's coming next, this guy's coming up next, and you show that knockout with along with a few more. Yeah, I think that sells pay-per-views. You know,
exactly.
especially
Or even if your goal is to sell the pay-per-views, put them on the prelim headliner of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think because I wasn't even thinking about this on pay-per-views like you said, but that gets some people to buy a pay-per-view.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot you can do with him. There's a lot you can do with him. You know, he's a very he is a born and bred fighter, right from the way he talks, like to the way he walks and the way he fights, and just his whole brand is just fantastic for the UFC. And I think we're gonna see much more from Khaos.
Now I don't know the rest of the card. I stood true to what I said last week. I said if you're gonna watch any card, watch Bellator over UFC. I'd watch more Bellator fights. I watched their whole main card, all three fights. I only watched two. I watched the co-main, the main for UFC. I think you did too.
What?
So
co-main? I watched parts of the Yoda fight.
Yeah, I mean, this was one we were all in on Eric Andrews, our guy fight. He unfortunately had to pull out due to health concerns. Other than that, it was a pretty weak card. I mean, it's tough to say that we didn't watch it, but like going through, there was Sean Strickland beating Brendan Allen's a little bit of note, but other than that, not much. Honestly, though, you didn't watch Bellator, did you?
No.
Really good. I mean, if you're an MMA fan that would just solely watched UFC and you tuned in for Bellator, and it was a 7 p.m. main card start, 3 fights on it, 3 really good fights. I mean, you had the opener was Emmanuel Sanchez versus Daniel Weichel, featherweight world Grand Prix. Let me say that again, quarterfinal. So the winner of this was going to face the winner of the main event of that night, which was Pitbull versus Pedro Carvalho. So you knew the winner of this was guaranteed a title shot. Like not like the UFC guarantees where things can change. Like literally next in line for the quarterfinal in a title shot. So it's a 5-round fight to open up the main card. Really good fight. And Sanchez kind of easy, I'm not gonna say easy decision, but a very clear decision for him. Really good fight, competitive. And then you had in the next fight, it was this guy's name kills me. Yaroslav Amosov. I'm probably butchering that. Versus Logan Storley. Amosov's 25-0 going into this. Storley was he was 24-0. Now he's 25-0 as he won. And Storley was Storley was 11-0, so 11-1. So 2 undefeated guys, prospects. Amosov, they kept saying, has the best professional record other than Khabib. I'm like, you can't argue it, I guess.
Yeah.
And Amosov was a stud. He was a stud. He looked really good in this. And then in the main event, you had Patricio Pitbull defending his title against Pedro Carvalho, and Pitbull had a walk-off knockout. Left hook, clipped him. That was that. I mean, Pitbull showing why. The more I see him fight, as the featherweight champ, he would be really competitive in the UFC. He'd be a top 5 talent for sure. I think he's a little small for featherweight, in stature, So I think because technically he's their lightweight champ in Bellator right now too. Like he would get demolished by all the lightweights in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
But at featherweight, he'd do really good. And honestly, like I would have to wonder how tall he is because he's 5'5". This year at 5'5". He weighed in 144, so that kind of tells me he didn't have a tough weight cut. I wonder if he could make bantamweight, and just because of competition wise, he doesn't have to in Bellator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that yeah. If you're a Bellator featherweight, stay at featherweight. But I could see, yeah, definitely if he was in the UFC, I see him if he could make the cut better at bantamweight for sure.
Mm. But I think even at featherweight, he'd be competitive. Like he looked really good in this fight. And so now it's going to be Pitbull versus Sanchez for the title. And then on the flip side, well, we can get to some of those fights because do you want to preview the Bellator card or the UFC pay-per-view first?
Let's do Bellator and then end with we'll do a Bellator sandwich.
Okay.
UFC is the bread.
So because we can just run through this one really quick. So it's again on a Thursday night. So the main event is the Featherweight World Grand Prix. Featherweight World Grand Prix. That pre at the end of it just screws me up. So the semifinal. So these guys, the winner of this fight is guaranteed a title shot as well. So they will fight the winner of Pitbull versus Sanjos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Darion Caldwell, former bantamweight champion for Bellator, versus AJ McKee, who's 16-0 and one of the hottest prospects in all of MMA. Really good fight.
Yeah.
A really good fight. I don't even know which way to lean. I think I would lean AJ McKee here, but they could really go either way. And the winner of this fight too is gonna versus. I'm gonna assume I would say Pitbull is probably gonna beat Sanchez. That makes for a hell of a fight, especially to end the Grand Prix too, because the winner gets $1 million too, and another belt. So really exciting. Other than that, on the Benson Henderson, Jason Jackson, that's just a fun fight.
Mm-hmm.
You get Benson Henderson in there, Jason Jackson too. That's just a fun fight, especially as a co-main there. And then Joey Davis, Bobby Lee, never heard of him. So, but it's a good card. I mean, if you're an MMA fan, you're liking these. And then the Thursday night, I still don't like the Thursday night, but it's kind of growing on me a little bit.
Yeah. And especially if they do it early, they only have a few fights. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice. It's something I think it's an interesting move to compete with Thursday night football. But I think almost now, like if you're ever going to compete with Thursday night football, this is the year to do it, I think. Just because the NFL has had so many problems this season, you know.
Well, the thing is though, is like, how do you think Bellator's ratings do once football is done?
I think Thursday night fights in mid-February, pretty huge.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty huge. I think that's the strategy. Almost like establish yourself, go 50% strength on these Thursday nights, and then anytime NFL's not going, you own Thursday. It's kind of a genius move.
Yeah. You know? If I'm the UFC, and this would be a real greasy move, but if I'm the UFC, because they do the Contender Series on Tuesday night, if I'm Dana White, I'm moving it to Thursday.
Dude, that is no, but I think Bellator beats Contender Series. Like I don't think Dana White's looking for a fight there.
But the problem is the Contender Series would still be on ESPN, and Bellator is on CBS. So ESPN beats CBS. If you're scrolling through though,
if you're scrolling through,
and
but like who
and the UFC name beats Bellator.
Yeah. I guess for the casuals, you're right. Like scrolling through, because I was gonna say like who just scrolls through to find MMA on a Thursday night, but you're right. The casuals, like they don't know what they're watching. They're just it's an adventure. You know, you turn on the TV and you just start channel flipping. And you Bella who? Oh, UFC sick. Like that's
exactly.
But that's not good for MMA though.
No, it's not. No,
not great for
I hope they
MMA.
don't do that, because I'd love for Bellator to be a really popping organization, because it's
Yeah.
good. It's good for everybody. Good for us. Good for the community too.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's very much a Dana White thing to do. I'm shocked he hasn't done it yet.
I think he's waited. Okay, imagine if he waits for Thursday night football to end. Like once the last Thursday night football game is over, then you move in. You send in the troops.
That'd be
Like he calls
hilarious.
up ESPN like people and he's like, execute order 66. Move in on Thursday night.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about that, what night of the week is PFL on too? Because they're taking this year out. They're coming back April 2021. Do you know what night of the week they are?
Isn't it Fridays? I might be crazy.
Maybe. I didn't think it was Fridays. I thought it was a weird weekday. I thought it might have been Thursday. It might be. I don't know. They might be switching it up too. Because I've thought of that, because did you see? There's 2 PFL notes. Like, have you ever watched a Pro Fighters League fight? You have. Which ones?
Like I couldn't tell you which ones they were. They were just on TV.
The only one that I watched was their Pinnacle card last year for the New Year's Eve. I sat by myself New Year's Eve watching it. I was super boring, but not boring watching it, but just being by myself New Year's Eve, a little depressing. But I think it was 6 title fights. Like everyone in their weight class title fight, the winner gets $1 million for each one. Really thrilling to watch. Good fights too, because it's all for championships. Like it was really solid. But so Kayla Harrison, who kind of was like the face of PFL, their 155-pound women's champion, she's going to Invicta for a fight at 145. Now there's a lot of talk, because she is an amazing fighter. She's undefeated, former Olympic champ. But the thing is, if she goes 145, does the UFC? People are like, does the UFC maybe look at her versus Amanda Nunes? Because even though Megan Anderson, that fight's coming up, is getting pushed back a little bit because Nunes got hurt. But I mean, is Megan Anderson going to be competitive? Probably not. No offense.
Yeah,
Nunes.
Competitive. Like you could be competitive and still get mucked by Amanda Nunes. Like
but
being competitive is getting mucked.
Is surviving.
Is surviving. Like living.
But Kayla Harrison would be competitive versus Amanda Nunes. But the only question is, can she make the weight? And then the other note is Fabricio Werdum signed with PFL, which is interesting because everybody thought he was going to Bellator for the Fedor rematch, and that fell through.
Yeah.
So.
Man, Fedor, how is that guy still fighting?
Yeah, I don't know.
Love him.
Well, that's the thing. Did it fall through because Fedor might be done type of thing?
Yeah.
Or because who was his last fight? Wasn't it against Rampage?
It was against Rampage. We watched it together.
Yeah, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was time when that was like.
Wait, was that Christmas break?
That was Christmas break last year.
Wow.
Yeah. That was nuts.
Pre-corona. Feels like years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Man, it's wild. It's wild. Yo, we got a vaccine coming soon.
Yeah, I saw. Was there Pfizer and somebody else made one at 90%, and then somebody else did. Yeah, 95%.
Yeah, 95. Something like the one's 90, the other one's like 95%. Like, let's get this popping.
Yeah, we gotta get things going here.
It's like imagine just I think the PIFT or whatever one. It's like this
Pfizer?
power Pfizer. Yeah, it's like this power couple that's just out here saving the world. Like imagine that's you, and you've been grinding, and every day you wake up, it's like I'm gonna save the world. I'm gonna save everything, and you just
about that fat paycheck that comes to find that
paycheck, and then it gets rolled out, and everybody like wakes up the next morning, and they have like frog heads. Like, oh, what have I done?
I've said for a long time, it feels like we're in the first 2 minutes of a zombie movie.
Yeah.
We're just living it before that vaccine comes. We all become zombies.
Honestly, okay.
Is this going to get us taken off YouTube?
YouTube, we're joking, okay? We're all for vaccines, and I'm sure they're very safe, okay? We're having a good time here, okay? We're having a good time. We're gonna
forget-
have some bloggers. Like the bloggers are gonna come out of the woodworks. We literally are lucky to get 100 views on our videos. We're gonna get like 100,000 views, and they're all gonna be bloggers, and they're gonna be writing just angry.
Yo, I would take hate views all day long.
Yeah, all day. Come at
If
us.
you want to just hate watch our entire channel, please
Yeah.
do so. Make sure you subscribe while you're at it.
Yeah, because don't miss out on hate watching future videos. Why limit it to the videos we have now? Subscribe.
Yeah. So before YouTube freaks out, actually, probably the one thing that people want to hear the most from us: UFC 255 preview. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, do you want to go top to bottom?
Yeah.
Or bottom to top?
Let's go top or bottom to top. Let's simulate how it works.
Okay, so do you want me to go through? Okay, I'll start with the early prelims, and I'll just read them out. And if you want to talk about it, talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, Luis Koshy versus Sasha Palatnikov. Wow, it's a tough first name read. You falling asleep over there? Kyle Dawkins versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Next time you're reading these names: Alan Joban, Jared Gooden. Exciting things in the early prelims. Daniel Rodriguez, Nicholas Dalby opening up the prelims. Antoniev Shebchenko versus Ariane Lipsky. It's a good looking fight right there, if you know what I mean.
Lots of Instagram followers involved.
Yeah, that's the the simp championship.
Yeah. We're pitting simp versus simp here, dude.
Yeah.
The like Instagram, Twitter is gonna be, it's gonna be a spooky place going in and coming out of that fight.
Yeah, MMA fans on Instagram when a female fighter that's good looking fights is ridiculous. Y'all need to control yourselves.
Yeah.
The next one is Joaquin Buckley versus Jordan Wright. Joaquin Buckley, that's the guy that had that unreal knockout. So it'd be nice to see him back in there. Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. That's probably the winner of that fight gets the next flyweight championship, unless it's Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, I think
that's a pretty good fight.
I think Garbrandt jumps the list.
Yeah,
but I understand what you're saying. Like,
so especially because he was signed up for it already. So that's the prelims main event. So main card now. First fight, Shogun Rua versus Paul Craig. That's a good fight. I think these guys already fought. They went to a draw. That's good. Shogun, legend, future Hall of Famer. Paul Craig, kind of perennial contender, stud. Good fight.
Yeah, and anytime you have two guys go to the draw, that makes for a great rematch. Like, that's the perfect recipe for a good rematch. You know,
who you got winning?
Shogun, but I'm based. I'm biased. It's what the kids say. I think, at least. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I
feel like that is not the case.
Yeah, that's the first time I used that, but I hear people say I'm based, and I assume. I feel
like you're just around illiterate people.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying like define illiterate, right? Because there's the street literate and there's the book illiterate. You know?
Just low IQ.
Man. Well, the only person I'm around is you, so.
The next fight, Caitlyn Chicagian versus Cynthia Cavillo. Didn't Chicagian just get like liver kicked and knocked out? Literally a couple weeks ago. Why is she fighting again?
Well, I know where to kick her, you know? Like,
yeah. I mean, Chicagian's a good fighter. I think Cavillo probably wins this with wrestling though.
Yeah. Or a kick to the liver.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous turnaround for somebody that lost.
Yeah.
Mike Perry, Tim Means. It's a fun fight. That's all that is. That's a fun fight.
Yeah, I was shocked Mike Perry's fighting this quick.
Well, and then because it was supposed to be Robbie Lawler, which is unfortunate that Lawler had to pull out. But who you got, Tim Means or Mike Perry?
Again, completely based Mike Perry.
That's fair. I think Mike Perry wins this too.
Yeah.
Now, again, the title fight. So in the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jennifer Maia. Flyweight title. Who wins this?
I didn't prepare for this one. Shevchenko. Again, totally based. You know,
Maia. If Jennifer Maia is able to walk out of the octagon, it's a win for her.
Yeah.
Like,
these women, nothing's unbalanced like women's UFC.
Yeah, other than the strawweight division, competitive as can get.
Yeah.
The flyweight division, Shevchenko just so much better, and then bantamweight and featherweight Nunes so much better. And which, if Shevchenko wins this fight, I mean, is as comfortable as she is at 25, I'd love to see her go back to 35 to fight Amanda Nunes, because it's the only way that those two can be competitive in a fight, and we've seen it twice before.
Mm-hmm.
And Shevchenko's even said that's the fight that most makes sense going forward. I'd love to see that, but Shevchenko, such a good fighter. Like,
yeah, because you get Shevchenko and Nunes in the ring together. That's a super fight right there.
Mm-hmm. Shevchenko really gets overlooked because of those two losses to Nunes. But you kind of have to remember too, is like she was fighting up a weight class for those fights too, which is like, and at 25, nobody beats her.
Yeah,
I would put her against 3 different opponents on one night, and I would say she beats them all. Like, she's just that good. And then we were lucky enough to be able to see her live too, and just how quick and precise she is.
It's lost on TV how fast her hands are. You know, like, it's just you understand. Okay, that's why you called the bullet. You know, like, it's just, she is so. She's honestly, I would say, one of the fastest punchers in the entire UFC.
Yeah,
like,
she's absolute stud.
Yeah, she's
absolute stud.
So I mean, even if the fight's not even going in, coming out, it's not going to be even this fight. But I mean, I just love watching her fight. You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's like
yeah, it's like boxing when there's gonna be a fight and you know who's gonna win and they're a huge favorite, but it's just enjoyable because they're that good.
Yeah, so it's gonna be. Do you think it makes it out of the first round?
Yeah, probably. I'd take like a second or third round knockout.
Second, third round knockout. That's fair. Brock's going by decision.
It probably will. Probably for Maya too. He loves the underdog.
Yeah, by decision.
Wild guy. The main event for the flyweight title. First of all, too, Shevchenko should be the main event.
Yeah.
She should be the main event. She's a better fighter. But the main event, Davidson Figuerato versus Alex Prez. Like I said earlier, this was supposed to be Garbrandt. Prez took this fight. Who you got winning this?
Figueredo.
Yeah, Figueredo by knockout.
I think he got pretty lucky with the swap out. Personally,
I don't know about lucky. I think Garbrandt, like, that one was going to be, I think I was going to take Figueredo over Garbrandt because Garbrandt's chin. Garbrandt's got a suspect chin to begin with, and going down an extra 10 pounds, it's going to be like Dillashaw when he just got clipped by Cejudo.
Yeah.
Figueredo has power at 25. I think Prez, no knock against Prez, but I just can't see him.
Some weight cut troubles.
Figueredo?
Yeah.
Yeah, he missed against the first fight. Yeah, he missed weight in the first fight against Benavidez. That's why they'd run it back. But I mean, think about the second fight. He went into it on a really shitty schedule and still made weight easily.
Yeah, it's true. I think it was more. So you're saying it's a little blip. It's not really a.
Yeah, it's an outlier. I think. Yeah. So I think Figueredo. I think he wins this. I'm not a big fan of Figueredo, especially after what he did to Benavidez, because I love Benavidez, but I think he takes this. I think quite easily too.
Yeah.
This is in pay-per-view standards. Like, how would you rate this pay-per-view?
Like, okay, what rating system are we using? Are we using a 10 out of 10?
No, like letter grades.
Letter grades? Okay. I would give this a See, like on face, I would be looking at this, and as the teacher, I'd have my red pen out, and I
Mhm.
would say, this is like a D plus maybe, and then I
Mhm.
would be like, well, I really like this student. They actually
Mhm.
kind of try, they put the effort in. It's just didn't work out the way they wanted it to.
Mhm.
C plus.
Man, that's funny. I was
Or
gonna
C
say
minus.
C.
Sorry, C minus, not C plus. What am I talking about? I'm getting crazy here.
I was gonna say C plus. I was gonna say C plus because it's one where like the two title fights helps a lot, even though they're not like. I think Shebchenko's minus 800, Figuerato's minus 500. So our predictions are not really like, oh wow, wild
Yeah.
predictions. We're just taking real big chalk here. I think it's an all right card, but there's a lot of fights, especially on the main, like the Mike Perry Tim Means. That's a really fun fight. Should probably be a fight night co-main event, right? Like some of these where it's just like you're good fights, but on a pay per view, it doesn't have that that like big fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think some of that is when you have two flyweight title fights, men's and women's, you're not getting those big fights in the lower weight classes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and
that's what's holding it back.
I think it's hard for the UFC because they put out bangers this whole like all summer long since they got
Mm-hmm.
back from COVID, putting out
Yeah.
really good cards,
Mm-hmm.
and really good fight nights too to like sprinkled in. I think it's hard. I think you kind of get to the end of a cycle, and then there's kind of a layover, and then the cycle begins again with like allegedly Connor Poirier. I think that's when
Yeah.
the cycle restarts, and this is just the very end. It's kind of you have two fights in the main and the co-main that we kind of wanted to make separate co-main events on bigger fights. We just didn't have the slots for it, so we're just gonna put it here. We're gonna accept our losses. It's gonna be like I think in terms of watching wise, I think it's gonna live up to the pay-per-view hype. Like I think you just put a pay-per-view on anything, you have two titles up for grabs. I think there's gonna be an energy. Like once you once you pay for it and lock it in, I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be a good night. I think it's just very hard to sell. It's just incredibly hard to sell.
Yeah, the buy rate's gonna be low. I think
Yeah.
honestly too, I wonder how much UFC's being hit with the COVID because UFC's very much a get together and watch the fights type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of times where like we'll get together, me, you, and a few other people, and we'll buy the fights. Where it's
Yeah.
if we were alone, probably not buying it, paying $65 for it. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. We're
So, but
just
when
not
we're
watching it.
yeah, yeah. But you know what I mean? With how many people are being like, no, I'm gonna pass, like, cause but I do it in a group. And those add up,
Yeah.
and because the
Because
groups are obviously limited because of COVID.
yeah, especially in a lot of these UFC groups, you have a few people that are like really into it and are going to watch no matter what. Then you have a few other people that are just, I'm watching it because the boys are watching it, right? So,
Well, I mean, but if that's the case, then the buy rates don't get affected because they're still
no,
buying
but
it.
the thing is, the people that know anything about MMA know they
Oh
don't have
yeah,
to pay.
yeah, they know they don't have to pay,
Wink,
and but they be
wink.
willing in a group. They be willing in a group.
Yeah, they'd
Yep.
be willing in a group.
But yeah, so we're not talking about ourselves at all.
Yeah, not talking
But the
ourselves
thing
at all.
is though,
Yeah, it's
MMA
Brendan
fans.
Schaub. You're ruining it for everybody else.
But the thing is, MMA fans, do they care about COVID? Bunch of scumbags.
Look, yeah, I remember being in the 500s at UFC when they came to Toronto. Ortega versus
UFC
Holloway.
231. The poster's right in
Yeah,
front of me right now.
yeah, and human like respect for your fellow man was not a trade up there.
That was in Canada too.
That was a
Imagine going to the States.
well,
For
I mean,
one.
look, Canada, that's a big myth right there. Like, I know enough Canadians to know.
I
They're
guess
not
you
as
got dual too, so you'd know.
yeah. Well,
Like, is
because
that something
it's
I'm
always
allowed to say in the pod and keep
yeah.
talking over? So I guess it
What's
doesn't
that?
matter.
What say if that I'm a dual citizen?
Yeah,
No, it's
I don't know how.
deep
I don't know how
secret.
secretive you want to be about things.
No.
I made that really awkward. I'm sorry.
I don't know. It's like I'm ashamed, dude. I'm ashamed to be both a Canadian and American citizen. I'm not about this, man. I'm gonna start my own country.
Facts.
Yeah. So,
We got anything? Are we talking about NFL? Or are we skipping it?
I have 37% battery on my camera, so let's talk about some NFL. I got time
Okay.
if you want.
Patriots won last night. And we're recording this on Monday, so they're 4-5 now. I mean, being a Patriots fan after so many years, you almost get a little bit deranged because going into this game,
You were
coming off
always
the-
deranged.
but coming off the Jets win, where they just barely beat the horrible Jets, I was like, you know what? Like, I was like, maybe if we lost to the Jets, we could have been really going for a good draft pick. And I was like, this is gonna be a tough rest of the year. They beat the Ravens, and I just went, the Super Bowl is back on.
Super Bowl is back on. Okay, I guess I can't judge because I mean the Giants beat the Eagles and the playoff dream is back. Like the Giants, I mean, now have 3 wins.
Yeah, because
Wow.
what are the Giants? 3-6.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pats are 4-5. I mean, the thing is, the Pats have a like a path to the playoffs.
And the Giants have
As
a
you-
path to the play. I think the Giants
Yeah,
have
because
a path.
because they play in the NFC East. The NFC East is horrible. What rank are they in that division?
I'm gonna look at the standings. Talk about the Patriots. I'm gonna look at the standings.
So the Patriots are in third in the AFC East. The path though that I was talking about was they play the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins still once this year. The Bills are, I think, 7-4. The Dolphins are 6-5. So win your division games out, you're fine. You gotta you essentially control your. I'm not gonna say you control your own destiny because if they all won out, other than those games, you'd still lose out. But like the path is there,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as Belichick is at the helm, you have a chance in every single game.
Yeah.
And Cam Newton too, like he hasn't been as good as he probably as we would have liked this year, but he's still a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Harris coming on, absolute stud. Their wide receiver core is kind of figuring it out. So talk about the NFC East.
Yes. So the NFC East right now, the Eagles are in first place at 3-5 with 1 tie. That's a shame because I think. Anyway, so then the Giants are 3-7, so they have 1 more loss then. And the Washington's at 2-7. Cowboys are at 2-7. So
That's
I mean the
such a bad
Giants.
division.
The Giants, I mean, they still they're the ones that still have their bye week. So they have that extra loss in there. But I mean, as long as the Giants can continue to win their games against the NFC East, they win the division. No problem, because the NFC East is not beating any other team than someone in the NFC East. So
Wouldn't that be wild if the Giants made the playoffs?
yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I think Daniel Jones is actually getting good now. Like Daniel Jones has been shockingly good, and maybe it's just because they're playing NFC East defenses, but Daniel Jones, like I actually I'm able to call him Danny Dimes for the first time unironically. After
it is wild how bad that division. Like I wouldn't necessarily shock me if the Giants made it.
yeah.
It shocks me how bad the Eagles are. And
Yeah.
the Cowboys is kind of like unfortunate because you had
the
Dak
Cowboys
and
the
go down.
Cowboys just got dealt a bad hand. But the Eagles, I mean Carson Wentz, like he just had eggs in his head all
he
Sunday.
sucks.
Like he just stinks now.
Like it's his fall from grace has been drastic. Like he won the MVP the year they won the Super Bowl, which he didn't play in the Super Bowl because he was hurt, but didn't he win MVP that year, or he was at least in the conversation?
Yeah, he was at least. I can't remember if he ended up winning it, but yeah, I mean that is just. I mean, it's gotta hurt to watch Nick Foles just come out of nowhere and finish the job. You know, It's gotta hurt.
yeah, but honestly, now if you're an Eagles fan, and a lot of them are those scumbags, they're scumbags too, but they wanted Nick Foles over Carson Wentz. That kind
Yeah.
of makes sense now.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I mean, yeah, Nick Foles comes out of nowhere. Basically, you win the MVP, but yeah, or like let's say he won the MVP. I don't know 100% if he did, but let's say you win the MVP, or at least you get close to winning the MVP, and then someone comes and takes your job still
Yeah, and the thing
in the
is, too,
playoffs.
what's more important, the regular season MVP or the Super Bowl MVP?
Yeah, that's a philosophical situation there. You getting into
There's a right answer.
what?
Super Bowl MVP, which is what Nick Foles got.
Nah, but
I
it's
mean,
like the
if
chicken
you
or the
wanna-
egg.
Okay, if
What comes
if you
first?
ask any player, do you want a regular season MVP or Super Bowl MVP? They're gonna say Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's not about what they want. It's about what
If
got.
you ask any of them what's more important, they're gonna say the Super Bowl MVP too.
Yeah, but I mean, you get the season. Like, does
What's
Nick
that?
Foles?
What's that
Nick
look?
Foles doesn't even have a chance to win the Super Bowl MVP if Carson Wentz didn't get them there by getting the MVP.
That's fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I understand that, but
But
showing up in big games is what matters most. You look at last year, Lamar Jackson MVP. He considered that season a failure.
I wouldn't.
That's why you're not a winner.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Big game talk. All that matters are the big games. We only
you can't even
big game talk. Let's talk about the Giants and Eagles game from Sunday, because this is big game talk, and that was a big game.
Yeah, I feel like this NFL segment, not anytime we cut to an NFL segment, it's just like I talk about the Pats, you talk about the Giants, because let's just be honest, I stopped gambling this year, and I stopped watching the rest of the games. And you used to watch them with me.
I've been watching a fair bit of game. I've been watching a lot of. I've been watching a fair bit of the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers is my QB in fantasy, and then I've been watching my buddy Seth. Shout out to you, Seth at Jidus. Is a big New Orleans Saints fan, so I love Drew Brees. Like,
did you see what Drew Brees is hurt too? Couple broken ribs.
Yeah, it's tough.
Long.
It's
who
tough.
do you start? Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston?
I think Taysom Hill. I like him a lot more. I like now. Okay, the thing that I like about Hill is that he's a very much a novelty. You know, anytime he could just be on the field, and he could do 7 different drops. You know, and it's a sneaky play, and I really like him, and I think I would try him out with a short leash, because I don't know if he can be a every play kind of guy, and you lose a lot of what's special about him if the team is like, okay, this guy's the quarterback and he's always going to be the quarterback, and you know what I'm saying.
I would flip it. I would throw Jameis in there.
Yeah,
I'd say with a really short leash, because I was like, you have the most upside, but Taysom Hill is going to be safer. So if Jameis goes in there and just starts throwing interception after interception again, get him out of there.
Yeah.
But Jameis Winston has like that upside and that potential to be a superstar. He's just got it. It's just what's in between the ears is what's hurting him.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if you just have both of them out there.
No, you can't do that, because then they're both going to be bad if you do that.
No, you just have both of them like every play, like they're both on the field.
Yeah, but then Jameis is the QB and Taysom Hill is like wide receiver.
You don't know that. Sean Payton is a genius, a strategic genius.
But
I'm
you
including
can't,
the bounty program. That was just like that's a big brain play.
But you can't have both. Like you can't do a trick play every time, or else if you lose the trick element out of the trick play, it just falls apart.
Yeah, but what if that's the trick?
Jesus Christ. This episode is just falling off the rails. No, it would be bad. It would be very bad. So
yes, it would be very bad. You've heard it here from Bradley Lyman. expert sports analyst.
Yeah.
You just
So-
haven't seen it yet. You know, we just haven't. See, because I think the thing is, Hill doesn't have to be a QB. You don't have to throw it to him and then he throws it. I mean, he could be a tight end. He could be a.
That's what I said.
Where-
So so Jameis would be the QB, and Taysom Hill would just keep doing what he's doing,
But then sometimes the ball just gets snapped to Hill.
which is the exact same thing as going on right now. So Jameis Winston would be the QB.
Yeah, but then nobody's feelings get hurt. You know, you don't have to choose.
We're saying the same thing, and you're just trying to argue it with me.
No, I'm saying you have both of them on the field all
Yes.
the time.
Yeah.
You
okay,
throw
okay.
it on defense, you know?
Okay, moving on. Soon enough, do we want to talk about the 27th weekend or talk about that next week?
Let's keep that hush just because of the COVID protocols and there's bloggers, you know.
Okay. Next week we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that next week.
But next week's episode, so we'll have UFC recap, preview of you know what? Actually, the 28th of November, Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson. That's when that fight is, and then Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson.
Is that the
That's
same
that week.
card?
Yeah.
That
So
is
that's on the
hilarious.
that's on the 28th. So we'll preview.
Wait, is it Jake Paul or Logan Paul?
Jake Paul, the younger
Jake,
one?
the younger guy.
Yeah. So that's gonna be the 28th. We'll preview that next week. Talk a little bit more NFL. You got anything else for tonight?
No, I think this went perfect.
Yeah, it went better than we expected when we were getting set up. A little bit of a shit show behind the scenes here. All right. So to wrap things up, thank you for watching. If you're still sticking with us, if you're on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're on the audio for the podcast, make sure you follow us, rate and review. Really helps us out. Like, we're just trying to grow, so anything helps really, and share with your friends. We're just trying to grow, put more content out, try and be entertaining, try and give you guys some sports information. We appreciate, like, stick with us. We post weekly episodes, and again, we're sponsored by Phoenix Fit. So that's spelled FNX Fit. So go to .com or .ca for wherever you live. You get 15% off any purchase, not just your first purchase. You can buy all sorts of protein, supplements, anything that you need, as well as athletic apparel. It's really good. We've got some stuff. I've worn it on past podcasts if you want to go see. So it's really great. And that's so promo code's BGT15 for 15% off. I mean, wherever you're watching, just check the link in the down below. You'll see it. Make sure to check out our past interviews. We interviewed Andre Uhl a few weeks back. It was really interesting. You can see how one of the premier bantamweights wants to fight Derek Lewis. And then we have a couple of other, like, we have Scott Holtzman, Eric Anders, Sam Alvey in the catalog too from a few months back. So make sure you check that out and stick with us while we're growing.
Yeah, and stay safe out there. It's a wild world, man. It's a wild world, which is why we escape into sports. So thank you for escaping with us. Now you got to go back out into the world, and it's scary. I know, but just know we'll be back next week. Take it easy, everybody.
See you then.